Okay. Tifties. Okay.
So
So
you
you
got me
think,
in,
excuse me?
oh, you got me in bed, but I'm just saying, yeah, I absolutely will defend my position
Okay.
for sure.
So you
All
think
I'm
Kyle's
saying,
guilty?
I'm saying that this court case sets a precedent. And all I'm saying is that in the future, as long as that precedent is applied equally, I'm fine with it, right? Equal protection under the law. So what we're saying as a society is that if I go to a place that I know is going to be volatile, emotions are going to be high, and I take my weapon, which I am a licensed gun owner, I have a FOID card. I'm from the state of Illinois, just like Kyle Rittenhouse. I have a FOID card. I have a license to concealed carry. So if I take that out to a place where I know emotions are running high, and I deem somebody a threat, or somebody yells at me or says a slur to me or any of that, if I deem it as a threat, I can shoot them, right?
That's not the standard, though. That's not
Well,
what
what
happened
is
in
the
Kyle's
standard?
situation.
Because I
It's already
don't.
set by the Wisconsin statute.
So
It's
so
not.
it's okay. So particularly, I want you to state to me in Wisconsin what the statute is and why that situation, if I were to go to Wisconsin with my gun, I'm a law-abiding citizen that has a FOID card in Illinois, just like, well, actually, Kyle didn't even have a FOID card because he's not 18. I can take my weapon
Which is
across
irrelevant
state
for
lines.
Wisconsin.
Okay, so I can take my weapon across state lines to Wisconsin to a
Okay, hold on.
situation that I know
Hold on.
emotions are running
Hold
high.
on. Hold on for a second. Okay, are you claiming Kyle took the gun across state lines?
I'm saying we don't know if he did.
Yes,
We
we
don't
do.
know that for a fact. No, we don't. How do you know that he didn't? Because that was what was testified to by a friend of his? You
Do you
don't
know
know
what the
that for
charges of
sure.
his friend are?
Yeah,
Do
I
you
know
know
what
the...
the charges.
Okay,
Okay, that doesn't mean anything. You can get charged with anything. Does that make it a fact?
the
You can get
prosecution
charged.
doesn't the state of Wisconsin doesn't dispute this. This is not in dispute. The
It
gun
doesn't
was at
matter.
his friend's house in Wisconsin.
Okay, so what you're saying is that because the prosecution charged his friend with a gun charge, that proves that Kyle didn't bring it across to Wisconsin. And that's just not the case. The
Well, what evidence do you have
prosecution,
that it was brought across? What evidence is there that it was brought
what
across state
evidence
lines?
do you have that it wasn't? I have
The
evidence that it
criminal
was brought
complaint
back.
and witness, the criminal complaint, the prosecution, and witness statements.
Again,
Now, does that
that does
guarantee it?
not,
No, but
that
what
doesn't make,
evidence do you have?
right,
What
right.
evidence do you
And you
have
don't
then?
have any evidence to the contrary. So you can't say either
I
is
just
true.
gave you the
You
evidence.
can't, but you are obfuscating because you literally just admitted that you can't prove that it was true based off what the prosecution charged. You just said that,
I'm
right?
saying, I'm saying there's evidence to support that conclusion. There's no evidence to support your conclusion. So
I can tell you
you're
this.
making a
He crossed.
baseless assertion.
Yes, there
But
is. He turned the
aside,
gun in Illinois. So he crossed state lines with the gun.
oh, you're talking after the fact.
Who
You
cares?
were
It's
saying
still
initially
against
he
the
brought it
law.
into the state to go to the protest. Now you're
Did he
switching
break
it
the
to
law?
after the fact.
Did he break the law? That's my
No,
point. Did he break the law? He
no.
didn't. He didn't break the law being 17, not having a FOID card and bringing an AR-15 into my state. He broke my state law. I'm pretty sure of that, right? So are you for the law or
He
against the
isn't
law?
charged. He isn't charged in Illinois because
Yet,
I believe
yet
Dominic was with him. The owner
it
of the
does
gun was
not
with him.
matter. It doesn't matter.
You do realize
He
it's not
admitted to
illegal to
purchasing.
transport guns, right?
He admitted to purchasing the weapon, though. He admitted to
Who did?
purchasing it with his, Kyle did. He admitted to
He
purchasing. He gave an interview. I have the article.
the owner is Dominic Black.
Check the videos on my page. Kyle did an interview where he admitted that he purchased the gun with his fucking stimulus check.
He gave money to his friend,
It's his
and his
words.
friend bought it, and the gun is in his friend's name. That is why his friend is not charged with a straw purchase, because they have no evidence to
So
prove that.
they have no evidence to prove it, but that is very different than the facts. That is very different. You can
Because the
say
fact is Dominic is the legal owner. It's in his name.
but Kyle admitted to purchasing the gun with his stimulus
I
check,
don't care what he
and
said. The fact is
you don't
Dominic
care what
is
he
the legal
said.
owner.
So to
Because
you, that's not
it's
evidence
irrelevant to
because it
facts.
doesn't. Okay, so to you, that's not evidence because it just doesn't support your view. But
No,
Kyle
because
Rittenhouse's own words aren't evidence. They're not.
when they contradict the actual facts, which
So,
it's
but his
legally in
friends.
Dominic's name.
So his friend's statement can contradict the facts, but that's somehow different.
His friend said that, and well, they both testified that in
There's
court.
no
But
way his friend could lie. There's people that take charges for people all the time, and you're oblivious if you think that's not the case.
if the gun
There's also
isn't
right wing people that are bribing this kid whose name the
if
gun is in to make
okay,
these
hold on a sec.
statements. They're offering
Hold on a
him
sec.
legal advice and legal representation. So you don't find
Hold on a
anything
sec.
fishy about that.
Hold on a sec. If the gun is not owned by Dominic, he would not have the two charges he has right now. The only reason he can have those charges is because he's the owner of the weapon. That's why he is charged. If Kyle was the owner, the illegal owner, the charges would have been on Kyle. So you have, but also, aside
Okay.
from this,
Two things, though. Hold on. Two things. Let me just respond to that. Two things. One, Kyle admitted in his own words that he purchased the weapon with his stimulus check. That's fact number one. He did do that. He did make that
he
statement.
gave the money to his friend, yes.
Okay. So you can say what you want to say. You can be technical about it all you want to, but that is evidence that was actually Kyle's gun, is it not? Because
No, it's
imagine what
owned
you're
by
saying.
Dominic. That's
Okay,
why
so
he's
imagine what
charged.
you're saying. So if a felon gives money to someone to go and buy a firearm and then they then use it, they can say, well, I wasn't the owner. I wasn't the owner. It was just in
They're
the same car
responsible
as
for
me.
whatever their action is. The gun charges would be different. That depends, just like this does. Where if Kyle was the owner, he would have had those charges for purchasing it illegally. But because he's not the owner, because Dominic purchased it, he is being charged. But
So he
aside
purchased
from you
it,
wanting
but
to
Kyle
ignore
gave
that,
him the money to purchase it.
yeah,
But you don't care about any of that. You don't care that it was a straw man purchase because Kyle gave him the money. Kyle then went and got the gun. Kyle then shot two people with it.
it
But
wasn't
it's
a
not
straw
his gun
purchase.
on paper, so that doesn't matter to you. So I just want to be clear about that, is that you're okay if that's the situation going forward with everybody across the board. You're
Yes,
okay with
I agree.
people
Everybody
making
should be able to act in
purchases.
self-defense.
So you believe that any minor can cross state lines. They can have a friend purchase them a gun. They can then go use that gun for whatever they want, for whatever they want to do within the law, let's say. And they're not going to be legally accountable for that
Wait,
because they don't, on paper, own the gun.
do you want it illegal for people to cross state lines?
No, I don't. That that is not the point that I was
then don't
making, and
bring
you
up
know
state
that.
lines because that's completely stupid. So let's move on. Now, the
It's,
gun
no,
charges
is
and all.
it stupid though? Because he came back to
Yes, it's
Illinois.
irrelevant.
So it's irrelevant that he came across to my state where it's illegal for him to A, have possession of an AR-15, and B, cross state lines with it. That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant that he broke the law.
That's not illegal when the owner
Yes, it
is in
is.
the
It's
car.
illegal in my state. He, a 17-year-old, cannot have possession of an AR-15.
So why didn't they charge him?
They haven't charged him yet. Illinois hasn't brought charges yet.
Oh, why
But
not?
don't be surprised when they do.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll wait for that. When they do have that, then we can talk about that. But until then,
Okay, and when they charge him, will you support it in the same manner? You want to play this game about supporting the law, but what I am saying is if they charge Kyle for illegally transporting a firearm across state lines, will you also support him being held accountable for those charges?
If he broke a law in that way, I will
He
acknowledge
did.
he broke the law, but he didn't.
And he broke, okay, so if he broke the law, you would support him being held accountable for that.
Well, if it's gun law, I oppose all gun laws, so no, but I would acknowledge if he broke the law, I would acknowledge that he broke the law.
But that's what I'm saying is you don't support the law because it doesn't fit your narrative and your views. And that's not equal justice under the law.
No, because I would apply that equally.
You're not applying it
I
equally
oppose
because
all
you're
gun
saying you
laws
don't
for
believe in
everybody.
it. Right.
What?
You're saying you oppose gun laws for everybody. So you would not support him being held accountable for breaking the law because it doesn't fit your viewpoint.
Well, that law, yeah, obviously. Just like if you wouldn't support a law, you
If you
wouldn't
don't
want people to
understand
be
how
held for it.
hypocritical that sounds, and I can't help you with that. But let's also
Well,
talk
it's not,
about,
so you can't prove
I mean, it
something that isn't
is.
true.
You
So,
either
but
support the
let's
laws on the books or you don't. You may not agree with them, but you either support law being held accountable to what the laws are or you don't.
no, that's not how that works, but that's a whole other discussion. Let's
I know that's
let's
not
get
how the law works. We don't have to follow them. We can just get away with whatever we want because that's how we feel.
didn't say that, but I guess if you want to
I
argue
mean,
with
you kind
yourself,
of are
that's cool.
saying that. You kind of are saying that.
No,
You're saying
not
because you
even a
don't
little.
agree with them, you would not support him being held accountable for the law that he broke in Illinois. That's what you're saying,
I'm
right?
saying I don't support certain laws. Just like
Okay.
if when yeah, so
You
yeah,
can not support it all you want. That's not the question, and you're obfuscating. The question
that was the
is
question.
that's the law on Illinois' books, whether you like it, agree with it, or not. So
What
you
law?
either
What law are you
support,
referring to? Let's get
you
that down.
cannot, first of all, you have to have a FOID card to have possession of a firearm in Illinois. You have to. Or you have to be with a FOID card holder. That is the law in Illinois. When Kyle
Okay.
crossed
Who
back from
possessed the
Wisconsin,
gun?
Kyle did. When he came back across, he took it into the police station by himself.
Did
So
he?
he was in the, yes, he did. So
Dominic
he
didn't come
turned
with
it
him.
in by himself. So he at least had it in his possession on the way to the police station and when he turned it in. And the Illinois state law is you have to have a FOID card to have possession of a firearm. He's 17 years old. You have to be 18 to apply for a FOID card. It took
Huh.
me probably 10 months to get
I
a FOID
think
card.
Dominic went with him, but if he didn't and he gets charged, fine. But let's get to
But
the
you'll
shooting part of it.
support him. My point is this. You will support him being held accountable if he broke the law, correct?
Not that law, no, because I oppose all gun laws.
Right, but you oppose all gun laws. So I could say that I oppose the law that he should be able to go into Wisconsin because he's a citizen of Illinois. I could say a number of things that I don't agree with, but that doesn't mean it is
Yeah.
a law. That doesn't mean it is a law. So what you're saying is you only
I'm
support the laws. You only support the laws that you agree with.
obviously, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Vigilante justice for everybody then.
What? You don't support all the laws either.
But I don't support breaking the laws and not being held accountable. I don't
So, no
support
matter
that.
what the law is, you want people to be punished for all laws, no matter what they are.
Ignorant. Yes, I do. I think you should be
Okay,
held
hold on a sec.
accountable if you break the law. Yes,
Okay,
I
cool.
do.
So when we had the Fugitive Slave Act, you were in support of slaves being returned to their owners?
You're talking about a law that is not on the books today.
Oh, that's right. You don't want to hold your standard universally. I get that. But let's move
No,
on to the
you're
shooting.
talking, you want to talk about a law that was justly overturned and very much should have been overturned.
You just
So are
said
you saying you
you
support?
want laws to be imposed on people as long as it's a law. You just said that. Don't
You're
retract that.
comparing gun ownership to slavery, which is fucking crazy, but
No, no, no.
okay.
I'm applying your standard. You
No,
said you wanted
you're
all
applying
laws
today's
to be applied.
standard. You're applying today's standard to slavery.
I'm
That's
applying
insane.
your standard to laws that used to exist. Now, if you want to change your standard
That
to
used to
you
exist.
don't want those laws enforced, I agree with you. I agree with you, those shouldn't have been enforced. But then your standard of all laws should be enforced at all times, no matter what they are, is wrong. because I think
I'm
that's wrong.
saying that people who break the law should be held accountable for it. 2 people lost their lives. And I know that doesn't mean much to you because you view
Yeah.
it as
So you
self-defense.
thought
And
slaves
what
should
I
have been
have been
punished under the
saying,
Fugitive Slave Act.
and what
Cool.
I have been saying, no, you're trying once again to apply today's gun laws to slavery. And if you want
No,
to
no,
do
no.
that, be
Your
my
standard,
guest.
the standard you just
No, no,
said.
no, no, no. No, we are talking about gun laws today. If you want to apply the same standard and you want to talk about gun laws, then maybe compare it to, Muslim, or maybe compare it to gun laws on the books prior to today. Don't
What
compare it to slavery because that is
what the law is
ridiculous.
irrelevant to what your standard is, because you said everyone should be held accountable for breaking laws no matter what they are. That standard applies to any laws. So
Yeah, what they are
at that
today.
time, applying that standard, that's what you would have to do. So now if you
So
want to
you're
change your
saying,
standard, then great. I agree with you to change that and not have that be the
so
standard.
So what you're saying is that the gun laws that would be on the books back when the Constitution was written should be the same ones we have today. You're
I
saying
don't think there should
history
be any
plays
gun
no
laws like
part.
I just said.
History plays absolute. You believe there should be no gun laws whatsoever.
Correct. Correct.
So anybody with a mental health issue, they should get a gun. We should just be out like Oprah out here. Just everybody gets a gun, no matter what their mental state, no matter if they've committed a crime, no matter any of that. Everybody should get a gun, right? That's what you believe?
Did I say that?
You said you don't believe in any gun laws. So I'm just trying
Correct.
to find out where your barometer's at
Is that a
because
positive claim to who should have one? Did I say who should? Or did I just say there should be no regulations?
there should be no regulation. So then, okay, where is the regulation for people with mental health issues? Is there not one or is there one?
There shouldn't be, no. But that doesn't mean I
There
said
shouldn't be.
everyone should have one. There's a difference,
Okay.
just like I oppose drug laws. That doesn't mean I think everyone should do drugs. I oppose those laws. There's a difference. You're putting words in my mouth.
So,
Maybe you don't understand what I'm saying.
don't be condescending, but what I am asking you is if you are going to sit there and say there are no regulations, you don't believe in any regulations for guns, you are ultimately saying that we shouldn't regulate who does and who doesn't have a gun and public safety be damned. Because those
Now you're
people,
putting words
if
in my
there's
mouth
no
again.
regulations on certain people having guns, they're going to obtain those guns. And so when they go out and they do something with that gun and harm somebody, what as
They
a
can already harm
society are
people.
we to do, huh?
But hold on. I don't want to get into a gun control discussion. That's what we're getting into. Let's get back to the Kyle thing. Now,
Okay.
as far as the shooting goes, now do you think well, at any moment, but let's start out with Rosenbaum, I guess. Do you think he acted in self-defense?
I think that he was not capable of making a responsible decision with his firearm. He was a young kid that made a stupid mistake, but sometimes stupid mistakes that you make, you don't get a second chance at them. People make other stupid mistakes and they go to prison for them. And it doesn't matter if they were young, incapacitated, had mental health issues or any of that. My husband is a correctional officer. The state of Illinois or the state or prison system anywhere is the biggest, is the largest mental health facility in our country right now. So those people commit crimes, even though they might be schizophrenic, bipolar, any of those things, and they're held accountable to the same standard. So what I am saying is it's irrelevant that he was a child. It's irrelevant that he was 17. He made a split decision to shoot Rosenbaum, and that was a mistake. He wasn't an immediate threat. Throwing a bag at somebody, whether it had soda in it or not, whether he was chasing
the bag.
he had to believe his life was in danger. Do you believe that somebody chasing you is reasonable to believe that your life is in danger? Your life is in danger.
In the scenario there where he
In this,
threatened to kill him and then chased him and went for the gun, yes.
so anybody that makes a threat to me, bitch, I'll kill you. And if I feel threatened at all, I can just start shooting people. I just have
No,
seen
no,
the
no, 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 no,
slippery
no,
slope.
no, no. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. You
I
just
mean, you were talking out
feeling.
of both sides of your mouth.
No, you're not
What is
listening.
what specifically is the thing that happened that would make it any different for me to behave in the same manner? What
You
specifically?
said
Because you're saying a threat to kill him, but if somebody threatens to kill me, I can't shoot him. So what specifically is the barrier or the
no,
barometer for that?
because you said somebody threatens you and you just feel it's a threat no matter what the action is. It depends on the action. I Whether you feel it or not. Like if somebody just says it to you and then they take a drink of soda and you for some reason take that as an imminent threat and shoot them, it's the act that matters. Now, if there's an act against you in the same way against Kyle, absolutely. But you made a very general statement. So if you want to be more specific, then be more
Okay,
specific.
so anybody could interpret body language as a threat. If somebody is walking towards me, I can say that is threatening towards me. If somebody is carrying anything, it could be a fucking soda bottle, a bag of Skittles, whatever you want to pick. They can be walking towards me and I can say, well, I thought they were going to do this, or I thought it was a weapon. I can say anything. We are going down a really slippery slope here. And I just feel
No,
like
this is how
this is,
self-defense is always.
I promise you,
This
this
isn't a
is going.
new. It
Okay,
isn't.
please don't patronize me because I'm 38 years old. I'm not a little kid or anything.
I don't
I'm
care how
very
old
well
you are.
aware. Okay, I'm very well aware of the castle doctrine. I took
Castle
firearm
doctrine is
classes. So
irrelevant to this.
okay, it is, but you're trying to act like I know nothing about firearms and you're being patronizing.
I didn't say anything about your knowledge of firearms. Now I don't even know what you're making up in your head now. Now, all I'm saying is the idea of just you're saying this case establishes that whatever you feel is a threat, no matter what the act is, means you can act in self-defense. This just simply
So
isn't
I am
true.
asking you, once again, I'm
They're
asking you,
applying,
what was the act? What was the specific act that Rosenbaum committed against Kyle to make him the victim?
I already said, what we have evidence of is Rosenbaum chasing after him after threatening him and then lunging at him.
So if
Now,
somebody
the
makes a
witnesses
threatening
and
comment
Kyle
to
says
me,
it was going after his gun.
so what I am saying, if somebody makes a threatening comment to me and then they
Hmm.
start moving towards me, I can view that as a threat and I could drop them. That's what
It
we are
dep-
now saying.
no,
You,
it's not. You just made a general statement. You're trying to make a general statement that isn't the situation. It wasn't Rosenbaum
I
made
literally
a
just
general
said the
movement
same
towards
thing.
him. He specifically chased him. That is different than
First
what
of
you're saying.
all, first of all, I mean, you're not going to gaslight me. I watched the video with my own eyes. I saw him chase him.
Cool, so we
So
agree.
I
So when you
saw it
make
with
a
my own
statement of
eyes,
moving towards,
but
that's not the same thing.
anybody can sit there and say, I viewed this as a threat now. Anybody can say that. If you're making movement towards somebody, they can say, well, they were coming at me and they had this or that in their hand and I was afraid they were going to harm me.
Yeah, they can say
It
that, but
doesn't,
it doesn't necessarily mean it was a threat. Like if
Rosenbaum didn't have a weapon. So what made him deadly
irrelevant.
to Kyle Rittenhouse that was the excuse? Or does he not have to be deadly at all? What's your viewpoint on
Okay,
that?
let's put it this way. Okay, at what point would Kyle, do you think, have been justified to shoot? At what point?
I think when someone was pointing a gun at him, I think he would have been justified to shoot. But I do think it matters what happened prior to that.
So
You,
so Kyle has to allow Rosenbaum to attack him.
I think when you say you are fearing for your life, you have to be in legitimate fear for your life. That's what I think. But it
Okay, that wasn't
doesn't,
my
I
question.
mean,
Do you
you're
think
not
he should
answering
have
my
allowed?
question because you're trying to like go around it. My question is,
Should
are
he
you
have
going to
allowed
hold?
Rosenbaum to attack him? Please answer that.
Yes, he should have.
Okay.
Yes, he should have.
Now, at what point during this attack do you think he would be allowed to defend himself?
He had it strapped to his chest. It wasn't going anywhere. Rosenbaum was not going to take his gun. So that
Okay, cool.
entire
That wasn't
theory
my
is
question.
complete
Hold on.
BS.
Please listen to my question. At what point after that attack
When he
is
made physical
Kyle...
contact.
So he has to wait till he makes physical contact.
Yes.
Okay, what if he can
Yes.
no longer defend himself at that point?
That doesn't have any bearing on the fact of how he would perceive physical harm to him. Let's say that you and I
That's irrelevant.
are
Again, please answer my question. You're talking about different things. You said he has to wait till physical contact. Well, what
yes.
if waiting for that, then he is no longer able to defend himself? So he's just supposed to get a beating and maybe get killed?
So let's take weapons out of the discussion for a second, and I am going to make a point. If I get into a physical altercation with somebody at a bar, it does not matter who started it, right? We're probably both, well, in this state, I'm going to use this state because I don't know the state laws everywhere, but in this state, it doesn't even matter who starts it. Both people go to jail. It doesn't matter who got their ass beat. Both people go to jail because both people made the decision to be in that situation.
Kyle didn't decide to be in a fight.
Kyle made a conscious decision to put himself in a very volatile.
Kyle ran away. He was not trying to fight. He ran away.
And that bitch should have stayed home too. He should have stayed home. If he was so scared and he was not able to protect himself and he was not a capable gun owner that he would be able to control his firearm that is strapped to his chest, then he had no fucking business being there.
So let me get this straight. What you're saying your standard is for self-defense is you have, if you run from somebody and they're coming after you, you have to wait until they make physical contact with you. And if you end up losing that fight, then just too bad. You shouldn't have defended yourself before they made contact with you, because you realize if he's standing still and he's running at him, he's the one that's going to be taking him down. He has the momentum. So he just needs to take the contact, and if it results in his death, that's just the way it should be.
So what you're saying, but you're saying that he bears no responsibility in instigating or being the root cause of a situation.
What did he do to instigate?
He went to a volatile situation with a firearm
strapped
to his chest, and then he went to that lot. He went to that lot while he was carrying his firearm. He had his hand on the trigger. So at what point is it a threat to those people that somebody is running around with their finger on the trigger of a gun? When is it a threat to those people?
And when do those people
have a right? It's in a video.
When?
I will look up the exact minute marker and I will send it to you. But what I am saying,
at what point in the night?
What do you mean at what point in the night? He had his hand on his gun for a lot of the night. There's many pictures of him with his hand on his gun with his blue gloves. Okay, well, if you're touching the trigger, that's your hand on the trigger. I understand that you want to be
hand on gun and then hand on trigger. Make up your mind. Which one are you saying?
I'm going to take it as a threat if somebody's got their hand like this sideways, touching the trigger, or if they've got it around the trigger. I'm going to take it the same way, and so would you. And you're playing semantics and trying to beat around the bush. No,
I'm not. You're saying two different things. Finger on trigger and hand on gun are not the same. That's not semantics. That is a factual difference.
Okay, he was touching the trigger. He had his glove on, his blue glove, and there are photos of him touching the trigger.
When?
There's several photos. What do you want me to say? All throughout the night.
Is this before
all throughout the
Rosenbaum?
night? Earlier that night, when he was talking to the police, when he was giving the person water, all throughout the night, he was touching on his gun.
His hand was on the trigger, or he was just holding the gun?
If he was, you want to play semantics, okay.
No, it's not semantics.
His finger was on the side of the trigger, touching the trigger. It wasn't wrapped around it,
So it
but
was
that
like
doesn't
this?
matter to me. Yeah, so?
That's not finger on trigger. That's not
So,
semantics.
so
That's when
I
your
have to
hand is
wait
on the
for them
grip
to
and your
wrap it
finger
around
is
for
up
it
and
to be a
straight.
threat. I have to wait till they're pushing it I mean, which is it? When
No,
would
I'm
you
saying
view it as a threat?
you
If
were saying
somebody,
hand on trigger. That's just not true. That
okay, so
position is not finger on trigger.
Okay, so
Factually.
I'm going to ask you, if somebody comes around you, you and your family, and they have a weapon, are you going to take it as less of a threat if they're touching the trigger versus have their finger wrapped around it?
If their
You're
finger's
being
on the
silly
trigger, am I
because
more concerned? Yes. Finger up like this, not concerned. Now,
you're
depending
not
on how they're
concerned about
holding
that.
it. Now, at any point, did he point his gun at anybody?
I mean, I didn't see that in the video, but I think that's irrelevant to the conversation that we're having is whether or not it's going to be okay for other people to behave in the same manner that he did. And what I am saying is I'm fine with it as long as the law is equally applied, as long as it's applied across the board to everybody.
Well,
So, but
okay.
earlier you said that if somebody makes a threat to me and says they're going to do physical harm to me and they come at me, I'm not justified in the same way that Kyle was. That doesn't make any sense.
No, because you made a general statement. You said if somebody moves in my direction, that's what you
And
initially
I
said.
asked
And
you
it depends. If they chase you, yes. If they chase you in the same way of Kyle, absolutely you get to defend yourself.
so what you're saying is I have to be running away from them. Is
No.
that the barrier? I'm trying.
No,
Okay,
because
then
just like
what
in
is the
Wisconsin, I don't
barrier?
think there's a duty of retreat.
Okay, so then what is the barrier? What is the barrier then? If it's not running away and somebody is running at me and they've made a physical threat to me, do I not have the right to drop them in the same way that Kyle did
Yeah,
that night?
if they're running at you, yes.
Okay, okay. I'm just making sure that that's the case because I said moving towards me.
Yeah,
So if
because
somebody's coming at me in a threatening,
moving towards could because you said the scenario of like somebody had a pop can in their hand and basically setting up a scenario where you
he
misinterpreted
did.
it. And yes,
He did. He had a
that's not.
pop can in a bag and he threw it.
But you're acting as if he shot him because he threw it. That's not why he shot him.
So
He shot him because he
specifically,
chased him and he was right next to him within arm's reach when he shot him.
so if that's the barrier, I am fine with it as long as it's applied equally, because what you're going to have are people trying to prove a point. And you can feel however you want to feel about it or be on either side. But I'm telling you that people are going to test the theory just to prove that it's different for other people. And I
You do realize
promise you it's going to happen.
this isn't applying the standard differently than it's always been applied. Nothing has changed here. This is the statute in Wisconsin for self-defense. This isn't new. So the idea that it's setting a new standard doesn't make sense because it is how the law is written already.
I never said that. I never said it was setting a different
No,
standard.
you're
What I
saying it's
argued
going
in
to
the
set a new
comments,
precedent, which it won't.
it's setting a precedent for people to say that person was coming at me aggressively. They had made a threat, and so I shot them. It is going to set a precedent.
It's setting
You don't think,
the statute
I
of
mean, you
Wisconsin,
don't
which
think
is reasonable, that someone is reasonable to believe that they're
reasonable
in
is,
danger of great bodily harm or imminent death.
but you're
That's the
giving
same
too much
standard.
credit to reasonable is nuanced and reasonable is perceived. It's
It
not
is. It's
something that you
based
can
on the
define.
context of the situation.
It's
Absolutely.
not,
That's what I was
it's
saying
not something,
before.
right, but it's not something you can define. So every single case that follows this will be adjudicated in court, obviously. But what I am
Like it
saying
always is. That's not new.
okay, so let me ask you something. Do you think that following this trial that there are going to be people that test this theory and say, you know what? I'm in Wisconsin. I've kept my firearms at home, but now I'm going to carry it everywhere. And the first person that threatens me and makes a movement towards me that even looks like bodily harm, I'm going to defend myself and I'm going to claim safe defense or self-defense. Do you think that's the case? Do you think that's going to happen?
I don't think anything's really going to change. But also, if somebody does uh, think they have a threat of great bodily harm, and it isn't such a threat, they will be convicted under the Wisconsin statute. The thing is in Kyle's case, he was reasonable to believe that in that scenario. Now, in other scenarios, if it's not reasonable, then they will be convicted. But in Kyle's case, it was very reasonable.
There have been many other situations where people did not fire their weapons because they didn't feel that it was a threat. What I am saying is that view is going to change, and people are going
Why?
to
The
say
statute has
anything that,
always been there. It's been the
because
same.
what
It didn't
you're,
change.
but you said, I mean, it is a perceived threat. You're talking about, you said reasonable belief over and over and over again. And that is a perception. That's not something specifically defined by you tonight or the law. So what you're saying is it leaves the door open for people to say, I perceived that somebody was a threat because they made a threat and they made an aggressive movement towards me or ran at me or whatever, definition you want to use. And
Well,
so I shot them. And
that depends on the facts. Their belief that it was a threat doesn't necessarily mean they were reasonable to believe that. Like you said, if somebody just moved in your direction, but they were just had a soda bottle and it was just a regular movement, your perception of that as a threat does not mean you get to use self-defense. That's not reasonable. You were unreasonable in that, no matter how you felt about it. Now,
if
in Kyle's case, just like it is applied to everybody. Now, maybe they haven't applied it correctly in other cases. I don't know all the cases self-defense has been adjudicated in Wisconsin. But in that case, because the facts also line up with what was happening to him, he was reasonable to believe that. Now, if Rosenbaum wouldn't have chased him, would have stopped and backed up, and then he shot him, he would have no longer been reasonable to believe that. But the facts line up with his thought. When the facts don't line up with your thought, then you're breaking the statute.
But you don't think that it's a very slippery slope or a very fine line in saying that it's reasonable belief? Because again, I'm going to go back to your words where you say reasonable belief. That's a belief. That's not anything specifically defined by you or the law. So what I am saying is, I could view
It's
somebody,
not just that,
if
though. It's
somebody's
tied to
if
facts. They go
somebody's
together.
about to, okay, but so if somebody's about to throw or does throw a soda at me, I can say, I feared that they were going to kill me.
You can say it, but it doesn't mean it was reasonable. If Kyle would have shot him for throwing the bag, and then Rosenbaum didn't chase him, he just threw the bag and he shot him, and he said, I perceived that as a threat, that wouldn't be legitimate, but that's not what happened.
So that's what you're saying is they have to, I mean, what, again, I'm really trying to understand your point of view, but I need a specific barrier at which you think it's lawful or somebody would have reasonable belief to believe that their life was in danger. So is it
That's a case
the
by case
throwing
basis.
of an object? Is it what's that?
It's a case by case basis. Each individual incident is going to have to be analyzed on its own. That's why they say reasonable to believe, but it's also tied to the facts of the case. So, like I said, if their belief does not line up with the facts, then they didn't act in self-defense.
Someone can believe anything is a threat. You say
Yeah, they
reasonable
can.
belief. Different people could view different reactions
Absolutely.
or actions as a threat.
Absolutely.
If you
And like
reasonably believe that something is a threat.
But it's tied to the facts. If you believe something's a threat, but it's not reasonable, like I said, if somebody just turns towards you and is drinking out of a soda can and you shoot them because you thought they had a gun or something,
That's not even close to the analogy that I gave you. And you're not even having a good faith argument because that's not even close to what I said. I said, if someone has something in their hand, is about to throw something or does throw something, or they're coming at me aggressively, whether they're running at me, walking towards me or whatever, I have a reasonable belief that they're going to do at least bodily harm to me. So at that point, I do have the right to defend myself. What I'm saying is people are going to push the limits on this because of this case. It does not matter what cases happened before, what was adjudicated in court. And, by your argument, you're saying each individual case is going to be different. But reasonable belief is on its own a very broad thing, and it's very
It's not
nuanced.
on its own. You keep saying it's on its own. It's not. It's tied to facts. They both go together. Your belief alone is not the only thing to take into account.
We're assuming that what I am stating is the truth. So if I am stating that somebody came at me aggressively, and that is the truth, and there is proof of that.
If there's a real threat, then yes, you get to act in defense.
But you can't say that somebody let's say somebody doesn't have anything in their hands and they're just coming at you. Anybody could do bodily harm and kill somebody by just beating the shit out of them. So at that point in time,
defend yourself against that.
If I don't know whether the person coming at me can do bodily harm to me or not. So it's reasonable for me to believe if somebody's coming at me aggressively, I have the right to use deadly force.
Yes.
That makes it very broad for a lot of different situations. And what I am saying is that people are going to...
You just made a specific thing. If somebody is a direct threat to you, that's not general. And everybody should have that right. But what you were saying earlier, though, is you don't agree with that. You think you should let them make contact with you first. Now, I don't know how you can have that standard.
Yes, I am advocating for that. I am, because I don't think we should just shoot people because they're coming at us.
Okay, hold on. So let's say, I mean, is that anybody? Anybody needs to do that, or do you have a different standard for different people?
No, I don't. I absolutely think it should be the same for everybody, just the same as I think this precedent that's being set now, or this law that's being evoked now, is saying, I felt.
So if a 260-pound dude is running at you and makes contact with you, you're likely no longer going to be able to defend yourself. So you're saying you shouldn't be able to shoot him until he makes contact.
Yes, I am saying that I believe you should not be able to use deadly force. It doesn't matter how big the person is coming at you. I feel as though, you are taking the most extreme stance, which is killing somebody, taking their life on an assumption. I don't believe.
Not an assumption. It's that I don't have to hope I'm not going to die, because what you just said
is an assumption because you don't know if that person's going to kill you.
No, I'm not making an assumption.
Yeah,
that's an assumption. I don't have to take the chance.
You can't.
You don't know what that means.
You are saying that you have reasonable belief that somebody is going to cause you great bodily harm or kill you. And they could just be coming up to you aggressively. I used to work in a bar. There were grown-ass men that came up to me aggressively all the time. Doesn't mean they were about to kill me. Doesn't mean I was justified in killing them, does it?
Well, now I'm not sure what you define as aggressively.
Screaming and making threats and putting their fist in their hand, that's an aggressive movement, is it not?
Where you thought they were going to attack you?
See, there it is, where I thought. You were talking about thoughts and beliefs. Anybody can
about
say
both together. I don't know how many times I gotta say that.
Yeah, but Kyle could have legitimately not thought that and could say he thought that just the same way I can. I can say, well, I thought that guy was going to beat the shit out of me.
He thought that. He wouldn't have shot if he didn't think that.
You can say that. You can say that. But you're saying that he thought that somebody was going to do him great bodily harm or kill him. And what I am saying is that means that every person that's ever approached me aggressively and made threatening actions towards me, gestures, whatever, I'm justified now in shooting them because I could have thought that they were going to do me great bodily harm or murder me, because I'm the only one that knows whether I actually thought that or not.
Well, apparently you didn't think they were going to.
You don't know that, just like you don't know what was in Kyle's
I'm
head.
asking you because if you didn't do anything, I'm assuming you didn't because they were just full
I
of
mean,
shit.
people get pissed when you throw them out of bars. That's it.
Okay, so you didn't actually fear they were going to do anything, right?
I mean, yeah, but I'm not going to fucking shoot somebody. I'm not going to shoot somebody because they're mad. Was I worried that they might put their hands on me? Yes, but I don't believe that that gives me the right to kill them.
Well, okay, so you say you have to wait till they make contact. So let's say they make contact and then they beat you to death. Then that's just the way it should
Then
be.
they're
You should
going
have
to
been able to,
prison.
huh?
Then they're going to prison.
Well, that doesn't
Yes,
make
I
you
do.
alive.
I do not believe that until you're in imminent danger, there's an imminent threat to your life, that you should be able to use deadly force. You
Well, but
feel
then it's too
differently,
late.
and that's fine. But again, you're getting away from what I said about applying the law equally. You're saying reasonable belief. Anybody can have the reasonable belief that if anybody comes at them aggressively, they could reasonably believe. Let's say somebody's just a major pussy. They can believe somebody's going to do them great bodily harm. Does that then give them the right to shoot somebody? And what you're saying is reasonable belief. They can do that. I'm just saying
If
it
it's
should apply
reasonable
to
based
everybody the
on
same.
the circumstances, yes.
I mean, some people are pussies, and some people, if anybody comes